Courage. Now, let me ask you this. Tell me somebody that you think is brave, or you know what? Let's use a better word than brave. Courageous. All right, courageous is a bigger word, I think. Tell me somebody that you think is courageous and why. What makes them courageous? Yeah. Okay. Jesus, why was he courageous? He died on the cross, so he demonstrated courage in doing that. Okay, who else? Somebody you know. Who's somebody in your life that is courageous? Your dad. Why is your dad courageous? He fought in wars? Yeah, that takes a lot of courage. Who else? Your grandpa, why? Firefighters definitely need courage. Police officers definitely need courage. What makes somebody courageous? What is... When they're brave enough to do something nobody else wanted to do. One of the signs of courage is when everyone else is running out, they run in, right? Firefighters, policemen, military, these are the people that are some of the people that demonstrate courage. Now, I saw some courageous people yesterday at Magic Mountain. All right? There were some people who were faced with some pretty big fears, some things that were pretty intimidating, things they didn't want to, and I was able to capture some of these. So, here are a few of our courageous people that faced Goliath. We had Ruby and Brianna and Sarah and Guinevere on Goliath, and then on X2. How many of you have been on X2? Okay, your head nearly falls off on X2. As you can see, Nicole is trying to hold her nose on so that her nose doesn't fall off, and Allie is screaming in terror. So afraid. Actually, that was when they came back into the station. It was all over and they couldn't believe they survived it. And then we have Allie and Elena. That was the before Twisted Colossus. I think they're still sewing Elena's head back on after that one. So anyway, but courage, here's what I saw yesterday. Initially, for some of the people, and these are just some of the awesome pictures. You should go on our Instagram, hashtag Exit83 Six Flags, and look at all the pictures that people posted. One of the things that I experienced all day yesterday was people going, I'm not going on that, right? And then some more time goes by, and they're like, well, maybe I'll stand in line with you guys, right? And then they stand in line. Then they get to the front, and during the line, see, one of the great things about Magic Mountain is in every line, you have an hour and a half to talk somebody into something, right? And I watched this happen to Ruby all day yesterday. She's like, I'm not going on this, guys. I'm just going to stand in line with you, and then when we get there, I'll just walk through it. And by the time she got to the front of the line, everybody's like, you can do it. Come on. No, you don't have to be afraid. Don't worry. Your head's not really going to fall off. Jeff was kidding. And all day long, Nicole and Carolyn and Ruby, and it's like, I can go on this. You went on like everything, right? So lots of courage, and you can overcome courage. Now, what are some things that just suck the courage right out of us? Where we want to be able to do something, but what are some things that just make you go, that just take your courage away? Doctor's offices. I'm feeling good, and now I'm sitting on this table with the paper. Suddenly I don't feel very well. What else? What are some things that just take your courage away? Not events, but what about bungee jumping would take your courage? So suddenly you're out of control. Yep. Oh, when somebody else around you is like, yeah, I'm with you, Ruby. I'm not going on that ride. You're like, oh, good. Okay, yeah, I don't have to have courage. Good, yeah. Because okay, so somebody's opinion of you could steal your courage. The dentist will steal your courage and your molars. Spiders will definitely steal my courage, all courage. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, some of the things that what you guys are talking about is stuff that seems too big for us, right? When we're faced with something, we're just like, whoa, whether it's roller coasters or whatever, if it seems too big, it can suck the courage right out of us. If it seems like it's just too hard, I want to try and do it, but I don't think I can do it, so therefore it would take too much courage for me to try, and so we back off because we don't feel like we have the courage to actually make it happen. Or it's just discouraging. Maybe you've tried it before, right? How many times in your life have you come upon something where you've given it a shot, and then it didn't work out, and so the next time somebody goes, come on, let's try it again, you just don't have the courage for it anymore. It sucks it right out of you. And I've had several experiences recently. I've done this a couple times, but recently I've been doing it with my son Nathan. Rock climbing. All right, you guys know what Hangar 18 is? It's this indoor rock climbing gym. And what I experienced there is, first, you walk up and you go, you go first, right? So you look at the wall and you sort of assess, what would I be able to do? And there's numbers on the wall telling you how impossible it is and how you will never do this, right? But it's just a number and it means something. And so you decide right then and there, as you look at the wall, whether or not to attempt it or not. And sometimes just looking at the wall is like, I'm gonna find another wall, right? Then, once you decide whether or not you're going to actually attempt this, you have to decide how high you're going to go and what route you're going to take. And there are these moments where you start something and you get to a point where all of a sudden, the wall is very intimidating. You felt pretty good when your feet were this high off the ground, even this high off the ground. But now, your feet are like up here, and you're going, if I fall down, I'm going to break. It's just going to break me, and it's not okay. And something that I see in my son Nathan, he is an absolute stud. Here, this is Nathan rock climbing at the gym. And he is just like, let me do it, Dad, I'm ready. And so fear is not an issue for him, all right? He just climbs up on the wall. However, there are times that he gets up on the wall and something inside of him goes, you can't do this. You're too high. The holds are too small. You can't reach that. And he will look down and he'll be like, Dad, I'm coming down. Now, we've gone with some friends and one of his buddies will be like, no, Nathan, you can do it. Now, Nathan typically doesn't listen to his friends because he's not very confident that they know any more than he does. And so his friend's going, go higher. Well, you don't care if I fall down and break. And so that doesn't offer him a lot of courage. So then I step in. Nathan, son, I believe in you. You can do it. Keep going. Now, Nathan has the confidence in me that I don't want to see him fall and break in half. He knows that. But he also knows that I'm not a rock climber. I mean, I can climb kinda on the really big holds that are like holding onto handles, but it doesn't offer him the assurance that I really can see what's going on and how he feels. And that's when the Hangar 18 guys kick in. These guys, that they're wearing these shirts, these Hangar 18 shirts. I think your brother's there. I think I see him all the time. And they've got these shirts on, and these guys are studs. These guys know what they're doing. They walk up to a flat wall and go, King! You know, it's like Spider-Man. Like, why did you just climb up that? And so he's watched these guys. He's watched these guys dangle by one arm, kick their feet up 6 feet over their head, and pull themselves up with their eyelashes. And so when one of these guys walks over and goes, Hey, come on, let's go, you got this. You see Nathan's eyes light up? He's like, it's like slow motion in a movie. Right? And they're like, don't give up, you can get it. Right foot up, plant that foot, here we go. I'm like, he's doing it. Right? And they're like, you got this, buddy, come on, you can do this. And he begins to do things that he never thought he would be able to do. When just a moment ago, he was ready to give up. Beat on, I'm coming back down, Dad. Somebody that he trusted, somebody that he believed actually has a vision for, hey, here's how you can succeed. Here's how you can survive this. When somebody like that comes along and encourages him, all of a sudden, it renews his courage. But some of what Nathan has to decide, and what you and I have to decide in our lives all the time, is what are we going to put our courage in? Where do you look for courage? Because we each have people in our lives where, for some of them, it's like Nathan's friend, who's a good friend, but doesn't know what he's talking about. And so we don't feel like we can put a lot of trust and confidence in them. Some of the people that we know that want to give us courage are like me, where you know their intentions are good, but you're just not sure that they really know what they're talking about. And then there's the experts. Who is the expert in courage in your life? Who do you look to in the really scary times? In the times of life where you don't know what to do? You're not sure how to handle a situation. All you want to do is climb down. All you want to do is go, no, oh, I look at that, that's awfully high. Who do you look to in your life for courage? What does that look like from day to day, from situation to situation in all the things that you do? Because Nathan has to decide whether or not he's going to trust. And he has to decide who he's going to trust in. And if someone else believes in him and goes, hey, I've got your back. I'm with you. I can see what's going on. It's amazing how it changes the courage that he's able to live out. In the Bible, there's a guy named Joshua. And Joshua was Moses' assistant. Joshua was his errand boy. Joshua didn't have a bunch of leadership experience. He was Moses' secretary. He kind of handled the things that Moses told him to do, and that was really the limit of it. And then Moses goes to Joshua. Moses goes to Joshua and says, hey, the Lord has chosen you to lead the nation of Israel. Joshua, the Lord has chosen you to lead, not to be the captain of the sand polo team, but to lead the nation of Israel. Millions of people. A guy who did not have the leadership qualifications. He did not have the training other than walking alongside Moses and seeing what Moses did. But everything that Moses did was empowered by who? God. So it wasn't even like, oh, here's Moses who's a good leader and knows how to do stuff and he's able to impart all this knowledge. Moses was completely dependent on God too. And Moses says, Joshua, you are going to lead the people of Israel. Now, some of the thoughts that probably went through Joshua's mind, oh, good, Moses is going senile. Wonderful. Thanks, Mo. I appreciate the confidence. I'm glad that will never happen, but I appreciate you giving me your vote. And then Moses goes up to the top of Mount Nebo and what? Dies. Yeah, Joshua wishes he was just going up on the mountain to pray. Like, he went up, He didn't come back down. Maybe we should look for him. Nope, he gone. Right? He is no longer with us. So now, Joshua has to decide. What do we do now? Well, God then says this. Moses, my servant, is dead. Oh, crud. Really, Lord? Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. Right. Well, hold on. So yesterday Moses was in charge. Everything was good. He comes to me and says, hey, God wants you to be in charge. Goes up and bites the big one. And now you're telling me I'm not just going to lead these people. I'm going to lead these people across the Jordan River. Let's understand one thing. The Jordan River cannot be crossed. It's flood season, and it's actually overflowing the banks. I mean, this is a roaring river. The stuff at Roaring Rapids at Magic Mountain has nothing on the Jordan River in flood season. There was no getting across the river. So first of all, Joshua is going, wait a minute. So you want me to lead these people, but you want me to lead them somewhere impossible. Oh, good plan, God. But let's just say we're able to build, I don't know, an ark and cross the Jordan River. You know what's on the other side of the Jordan River? Any ideas? Jericho is on the other side of the Jordan River. So not only do you want us to leap into the river and be like, bye, Mom, as people are just washed away, those of us that survive this crazy mission are now going to be in enemy territory with a city with walls so thick that they have chariot races up on top. Yeah. Sounds like a plan, God. Now, Joshua has a decision to make, right? Joshua is staring at the wall. What are his two options? He's got two options. First option would be what? Go ahead, talk. Run away. You're like, no. Okay, so God, here's what I think we should do. I think you should choose somebody else who actually has some experience and knows what they're doing. And two, I think that I'm just going to stay in this position as assistant to whatever next crazy person comes along. That was one of his options. What was his second option? To actually put his trust in God, which means that he's got to believe that God can see the whole wall. He's got to believe that God has his best intentions in mind. He's got to believe that God knows what he's capable of and will not ask him to do something that will cause him to fall and break in half. Easy decision? No way. But you guys, in our life, we are confronted on a regular basis with the decision to either pursue God or run from it. And guess what? God will let you do either one. He's not going to force you. He's going to give you the choice to either pursue or retreat the call that he has on your life. Now, Joshua's thoughts of himself are not good. Joshua is looking at his life and going, who am I? I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do it. Nobody's going to listen to me. Everybody's going to laugh at me. Nobody's going to care what I say. This isn't going to work. He doesn't believe he can do it. He is terrified of what God is asking him to step out and do. And we know just how bad Joshua thinks he is because of what God says to him. God says this. And as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey the laws my servant Moses gave you. Don't turn from it to the right or to the left, that you will be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? He says it again. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. You don't have to say this to a guy who feels good about himself. You don't have to say this to a guy who is full of courage and bravery and actually believes he can do it. God says 9 times in several different ways over these 4 verses, don't be afraid. Be strong. Be courageous. I'll tell you again, be very courageous. Do not be afraid. Fear not. You don't have to say that to somebody who knows what they're doing. So we know that Joshua was not feeling great about what was going on. This is Nathan up on that wall going, Dad, I just need to come down. I can't do this. This is you with a friend who's making really bad choices in their life. And you feel like, I should say something, but inside, your heart and your mind is screaming at you, just shut up. Don't say anything. You're going to tick them off. It's none of your business. Just let them do what they want to do. This is you at your school. Whether you go to a public school or a Christian school or a charter school, this is you at school when it feels like the darkness is so overwhelming that you could never make a difference. That anything you say is just going to get mocked and teased and laughed at. People are going to call you a religious freak. People are going to say all these things about you. People are going to talk about you behind your back. This is you, that moment for you at school when everything in you just says, back away, back away, back away, it's not worth it. This is all of us when we're talking with a faithless friend and they say things, like, all I have to do is persevere and karma will make sure everything turns out okay. And for those who have faith in Jesus, those who have faith in this almighty God that we read about in the Bible, we go, karma? Our life is not just luck of the draw. Our life is not just by chance. And yet inside, your mind is going, who cares? Who cares what they believe? It's not that big a deal. Fine, let them believe in karma. And we have these decisions to make. What we're going to do. Whether we are going to pursue what God has called us to. Whether we are going to live this life in a way that goes, hey, I'm going to live for something more than myself. And I am not going to continue to let my fear and my insecurity determine where I climb. Because guess what? Climbing just on the first 2 holds on the wall, you're never going to go anywhere. It's never going to be worth anything. We have a decision to make whether we are going to passionately pursue the call that God has on our life. At our school, with our friends, in everything that we do. So, in these moments, when you're at school, it just feels overwhelming. When you're with a friend and you feel like you should say something, but you're scared, where does your courage come from? What do you look to give you courage? Other people? Parents? Yourself? Your inner being? And you're just like, I have the power within me and I just have to become brave? There's a lot of things that I have tried to be brave about. And the reality is, if I don't have courage, I can't be brave. You can't just conjure up bravery. And yet we try that all the time. So Where do you look for your courage to come from? From yourself? Well, we all kind of know how that works, right? You try and talk yourself into it, but okay, that's as far as I can talk myself into going. Other people? Well, maybe there are some trustworthy people in your life, and they may be able to encourage you to a certain point, and it may be farther than you would go yourself, but there's still going to be limits to it. Or do you look to someone greater than you, who can see the whole route, who can see every hold, who knows how strong your fingers are, who knows how your balance is, who knows how afraid you are? And so often, we stop short of believing and trusting in that, in God, to give us courage. We trust in ourselves. We trust in the people around us, and hopefully they have some good advice for us. But if they can't get us to where we want to be, are we really willing to take the next dangerous steps of believing that God knows what he's doing and knows what he's calling us to? Joshua did not have courage because he was brave. See, if you don't know, the rest of this story is that Joshua decides to trust in God. He decides to trust the call that God has on his life. And God does miracle after miracle after miracle in their life. He stops the Jordan River so that they can cross on dry land. When they get to Jericho, he has them do some exercises of faith, has them march around the city once each day. And then on the seventh day, they march around 7 times, blow their trumpets and shout, and the walls come down. But Joshua didn't do all that because he was brave. Joshua didn't do all that because at some point he sat in his tent and he made a list of all the pros and all the cons of following what God. Well, the pros are, he's God. The cons, I'm not ready. I don't know what I'm doing. The Jordan River. Look at 1. All right, God, let's do it. That's not why he did it. Joshua did not have courage because he had a best friend who came and sat down with him and went, you know what? I really think this is a good opportunity. I think you can do this. Come on, man. I think you should do it and do what we did to Ruby all day yesterday. And just talked him into it. These aren't the reasons that Joshua had courage. Joshua had courage because of what he believed about God. Because of what Joshua believed about God. What do you believe about who believes in you? What do you believe, or who do you believe believes in you? Because if you would say, well, my friends believe in me, my parents believe in me, family, cool. If you fail to know and understand that there is a God who made you, who has a purpose for you and a plan for your life, if you fail to see that he believes in you, you will always stop short. You will always stop where it's safe. If you go to the beach, I'm going to mix metaphors now. I'm not talking about rock climbing anymore. If you go to the beach, you go out into the ocean, you ever get to that point where something weird happens and all of a sudden you're too far? Now, right here, I'm too far. Here, my heart settles down and I'm okay. But here, I need to go back in. I'm good. Not good, not good, not good. Okay, right? There's that line, right? There's somewhere without our willingness or our awareness to trust that God has a plan for Grace and Jessica and Caitlin and Carter and Nick. If we don't trust that, we will never be courageous. We will always stop short. But Joshua had courage because of what he believed in God. And this is what God told him. Hey, have courage. Don't be afraid. Be very courageous. And then he tells him why. For I will be with you wherever you go. See, God wasn't telling Joshua, oh, just be brave. Come on. You can do it. That's what Nathan's friend does. Oh, come on, you can do it. He doesn't know whether he can do it or not, but that's what I'm going to tell you. God doesn't expect us to move and have courage just because he said so. He's going, look, I know this is scary. I know it's hard to talk to your friends when they don't necessarily believe the same things you do. I know it's hard to do the right thing, what I'm calling you to do, when everybody else is encouraging you to, who cares, just do what you want to do. But I will be with you wherever you go. And in your life, as you have a loved one dying of cancer, or you have a friend that is doing things that is just destroying their life and hurting the people around them, or when you are so hurt and so upset that all you want to do and all you feel like you can do is sit in your room and cut yourself, where do you look for courage? Do you just stop with how you can make yourself feel? Are you just stopping with the encouragement of parents and youth pastors and people that maybe know a little bit more than you? Or are you looking to the one who can give you authentic courage to do what you never could believe yourself to be able to do? And guys, courage is not something that you just have to sit around and wish you could have. It's not something you, I don't know, maybe someday I'll be courageous. It doesn't have to be like that. Courage can only come from trusting in one greater than you. That's the only way it can happen. And Jesus said to those who follow him, go and make disciples. Live in a way that is different than the world. And love your neighbor as yourself, even the ugly neighbors. And I don't mean the ugly neighbors, I mean like even the broken neighbors. I mean, love the ugly neighbors, but not the... Love the ones that are unlovable. The ones that are difficult for you to love. But then he gives us the reason we can be courageous enough to do that. Oh. Jesus said this, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Don't just be courageous because I stand up here and tell you to be courageous, or we read the Bible and it says be courageous. Stand on the promise of God that he is with us, that he has hope for you, that he has a design for you, that he has a plan for you, that he can see the whole wall. He can see the holes. He can see the stuff that you can't handle. And his plan for you is good and perfect. And as you go to school and you are surrounded by darkness, you're surrounded by people who don't know, who don't understand, or who don't care. For those of you that have faith in Jesus, where are you looking for the courage to actually make a difference in the darkness? Please don't look for me. Please don't look to Carlo. Please don't look to the person sitting next to you, as wonderful as that person may be. When you're in that place, who are you going to look to? Because God said, look, I'm going to give you my spirit. If you will put your faith in me, my spirit will live inside you. And suddenly, Haley is doing things that she never thought she'd be able to do. Allie is having conversations that she never would have chosen to walk into. Because it's not them. It's not us just trying to be brave. It's the Holy Spirit working in us. But will you trust that God will never leave you? That it's not just because you are brave enough that you're going to be able to do stuff, but because the Spirit of God is going to work through you. And if you're here this morning and you would acknowledge, I don't have a relationship with Jesus. I'm not a Christian. I'm at church because somebody brought me. I'm here with my aunt and she likes to go to church. And you're hearing about this idea of having courage beyond ourselves, and you are, honestly, you're tired of being afraid. You're tired of only getting 2 steps before you feel like you have to climb back down. It's not an accident. It's not an accident that you're here, and it's not an accident that you feel that way. See, we were designed to need someone greater. And so if you're here this morning and you don't have a relationship with Jesus, you're going to continue to feel that way, I promise. Because you are only going to be as good as you can be. But with the Spirit of God, you can know that you are never alone. That it is not about you trying to be good enough or brave enough or securing yourself enough. But that the love of God, the forgiveness of God, the mercy of God is in you. And you will do things that you never would have dreamed possible. And I want to tell you right now, Jesus is inviting you into that relationship. And there's no magic words, there's no special prayer that you have to do. You don't have to do some sort of dance and, acrobatic moves. You don't have to cut the head off a chicken. It's nothing weird. You are being invited into a relationship with Jesus, which means you go to him and acknowledge, I'm not enough on my own. I need you to save me. I need to be forgiven for the ways that I've lived against you. And God promises that you will be filled with the Holy Spirit. And that is a journey that many in this room have been on. And that is a journey that we screw up all the time. And we keep climbing back down the wall. But our journey is toward God and trying to trust that he will be faithful and seeing him be faithful. So would you bow your heads with me? And I want to pray for us. I want to pray for all of us because, guys, every day I have things that I face where I just want to climb down the wall. And I know that you do too. And I want to pray for those of you who would say you don't have a relationship with Jesus, but maybe today you want to start one. Maybe today you want to start having and living a courageous life. Not just a brave life, but a courageous life because you know you're not alone. So would you bow your heads? Don't look around. We don't need to be distracted and paying attention to anybody else. If you're here this morning and you have not accepted Jesus into your heart, if you have not asked him to come into your life, but something in you is stirred up and you want to have this kind of courage, you want to be forgiven, you want to know that you're not alone, I'm going to pray in just a second, and I want to invite you to pray along with me. And then if you pray this prayer, I'd like you to either come to me or come to Carlo after the service and let us know that you prayed. Because we want to encourage you. We want to be those people in your life that say, yeah, you can do it. As you trust in Jesus to do the work. So if you want to pray that and invite Jesus into your heart, you can agree with me in this prayer. pray along with me, whatever you want to do. Jesus, I am scared. And I have been trusting in myself. But I don't want to do that anymore. I see how I have been living against you, and I ask you to forgive me. I want to understand more about who you are and how to live for you. And I want the courage that only you can give. I want the hope that only you can give. I want the real, authentic life that only you can give. So I ask you to come into my life, to forgive me, and to set me on a new path. Make me a new person that will follow after you. And God, for those in the room that declare a faith in you, I pray that you would show them what it truly means to live that out. God, that we would stop retreating, that we would stop climbing back down the wall and just giving in to the things that the people around us say or what we're feeling inside. And God, I ask that you would teach us how to trust in you, how to believe and what to believe about you and your faithfulness and your love for us. And God, that the things that we do would be passionately pursuing you. And God, I pray that there would be miracles that happen. I thank you for the testimonies that have already been happening over the last few weeks of people having really great conversations with people at school. And God, I pray that you would continue to help us be a light in our communities and to our friends, and that we would have the courage to speak up in love and compassion. And God, that you would change lives around us. God, thank you for the example that we have in Joshua and his courage to trust in you. Do that in us, Lord. In Jesus' name.